Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Who's gonna take you home tonight? Who's gonna take you home? Does God bless your transsexual heart? True trans or rebel? True trans or rebel?
Welcome to Creating Maya for this week, and also the Uncontrollables, a special hybrid episode. Maya Axton is with me to my left. Maya, how are you doing this week?
Well, this week, particularly shitty, but we won't get into that this episode.
We are doing a hybrid episode. For those of you that don't know, Maya has two podcasts because she's so awesome she needs to fill 2 hours a week. And you can get both podcasts at creatingmaya.com or the uncontrollables.com, or you can go to wal-radio.com and get all of the WAL Radio Network podcasts, of which I am on several. Those are my favorite. Actually.
You're on too many.
I know, too many, way too many. And so this week, the news cycle sort of demands that we do a hybrid episode of both Creating Maya and the Uncontrollables. So you'll be able to hear it on both feeds and on Indiana Talks. What are the two issues that really have brought the trans movement to the forefront this week, Maya?
Well, there was a little trending hashtag for a short bit, and I'm gonna say the word. It's gonna be ending beeped out just so for full effect. But it was hashtag fuck cis people, and we'll get into what cis is and everything else and what all that is. But it happened to come right before the final sentencing. Good Lord, that word sucks. Of Bradley Manning. Just shortly afterwards, Bradley came out and said, "I want to be referred to as Chelsea Manning, and I am a woman. So use female pronouns, or I will leak information about you too." No, he didn't say that, but that would have been hilarious. And so the whole trans thing's just really, really massive in the news cycle right now.
Yeah, it's really, for the first time, and maybe I'm just more aware of it now after the last year, but it seems like this week there's been more discussion about, transgender issues than maybe in a long time.
Well, and then, what was it? I can't think, was it last week or the week before, is California signed into law the transgender equality rights bill.
Right.
With, kids being able to go through, K through 12, being able to choose what bathroom they want to choose or what sports team they want to play on, and a lot of things change there. So 3 massive things in the world as far as the news cycle on the mainstream end, on Twitter with trending topics, and in kind of the underground sphere too. Trans right now for the month of August is everywhere.
Yeah. I have to mention, though, that part of the photo for this week needs to be your hair.
You know what? You got a problem with my hair?
No, I love your hair. I think it looks awesome. It's like an ultraviolet purple / pink.
It's called hot pink, and it's UV reactant. And my hair, last week, 2 weeks ago, got it bleached and then dyed a pink. Right. But we didn't like that pink.
No, it was like your traditional pink.
It was cotton candy pink.
Right.
No. No, we had to get a different kind of pink, and now we have that in there, and it is, oh my God.
It's fantastic.
I one of the reasons I did it is gold because I love pink. 2, because I'm weird. But 3, because I ride a bike downtown a lot.
Right.
You're going to see the person with pink hair. I'm sorry, you're just going to. You might wreck, but it's not my fault.
Well, used to ride a bike downtown.
Yeah. We're not going to get into that.
No, that's for another episode. Okay, let's talk about what cis means. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't cis mean normal?
No. Cis, the reason
I'm just kidding, don't cut me.
My gun's laying right there.
I know.
Don't make me grab it.
I know.
Just
a joke. Just a joke.
Cis is basically not trans. It's
Right.
not normal. And people use the word cis so they don't have to say normal.
Right. So cis essentially is cisgendered, which means it's the word that you like to use as binary, male and female. It's, just sort of most of the population is cis.
Yeah.
Help define it a little bit more for those who don't get what we're saying.
You live within society's confines of what gender is based on what you were assigned at birth.
Okay.
So you're cis because you were told you're a boy at birth, and now you're just like all boys should be.
Okay. Well, depends. I did watch Animal Planet's Too Cute for about 4 hours last night.
That's the carnivore in you coming out.
It
and
has
like
puppies.
Your attraction to that is cute little fluffy things are easy to hunt and kill. I must eat them.
Are you calling me fat again?
No.
Okay.
All right. Before we get too much further, in this,
We
do
have a guest.
and this guest is very special. I've kind of fallen in love with her, following her on the social spheres of the interwebs. Says things better than I can, so that's why I like people.
Well, most people can.
But she is who started the F cis people hashtag, and I think is to blame for many a great and horrible arguments and articles across the interwebs. But it's
So is she the second social terrorist that most of our audience has met?
Yes, I think this isn't an insult, but this is actually a compliment. I would probably classify you as a social terrorist too. So Lorelei Bailey's on with us. Say hi.
Hello.
If you want, you can give us a little short introduction of who you are.
Well, I'm Lorelei. Reddit Villain of the Year 2012. Yeah. Reddit's a very terrible place, so I took that as a compliment.
Reddit is like 4chan with a condom on, though.
It's like 4chan with an account. Okay. The reason why they made, think about this, the reason why they made 4chan was to take away the ego of the account. And that created its own problems. This puts the ego back into it with the same mentality of channers. So it's like channers with more ego.
Yeah, I see that problem. I try to post some of my stuff on Reddit just because it's a lot of people and I want to get more hits on my website, and it's like I get downvoted for everything. Everything just downvote. It makes no sense. Now your handle on Twitter is Stuxnet, right?
Stuxnet source, yes.
Source. And what's that mean?
I posted a decompile of the Stuxnet binary that was leaked with the HB Gary emails on GitHub.
And what is 99% of the people listening to this right now probably don't know what that means. If you want to give a little bit more detail as far as
back in 2011, Anonymous hacked into this security company known as HB Gary and released all of their emails. And the emails contained various files and secrets within, including a bunch of questionably illegal things they were doing, and a lot of stories were written about it.
And so you were the source for that being posted on Reddit then?
I was the source for like I said, I decompiled the Stuxnet binary that was being exchanged in the emails so that analysts could look at it.
See, that's some hardcore shit right there. Chris, why don't we have anybody that does cool shit like that?
I don't know. James Neese sort of falls into that category, I guess.
No, he doesn't.
A little bit.
No. Yeah, well, but he's a troll. He didn't actually do anything constructive.
That's true.
Remember, they got a whole bunch of black characters on some like social game and made a giant swastika for like 6 hours. You know, that's what James Neese does. But enough about that weirdo. Lorelei, you created the FCIS people hashtag, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, there's a lot of people that are coming out and saying, it's offensive. Why do you hate cis people? Why are you grouping all of one set of people together? You've seen all the arguments against.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen them all.
And then for a while there on Twitter, it was definitely a big thing with the militant TERF feminists. TERF being trans exclusionary radical feminists, people that hate trans people, feminists that hate trans people.
Yeah.
And they really came out full bore saying that, just all kinds of stupid stuff. I don't even want to say words, but so it created a large divide in a lot of the blogging community. Some people were for it, some people were against it, some people understood it. Why don't you just tell us why you made FCIS people?
The original context of the hashtag was a conversation between myself and another person about Chelsea Manning. This was before the sentencing, and I was talking to this person about how Chelsea was trans and how certain people within the trans community have known this since around 2011, and no one would listen to us. And at least use gender-neutral pronouns in the media, because another part of those logs stated that one of Manning's fears was to be drugged through the media as a man, and that's what they were doing, and that was contributing to her torture. So, like, I understood the legal motivation behind the lawyer saying, oh, we're gonna do this with him as a male. That's for the courts. That doesn't mean we had to believe that bullshit. I mean, it was obvious to anyone who looked at the evidence that this was the case, and no one would listen to us.
Okay.
And it was the frustration from that. It was like, fuck cis people. Or, sorry, that's how angry I am at it. That for erasing someone's identity for political reasons, that she would have to do this.
Well, there was a point where, if I'm not mistaken, that Manning herself came out and says, for the time being, I think it was probably at the behest of her lawyers, that for the time being, Manning had stated that go ahead and refer to her as he and as Brad or Brad Lee. That kind of, I think for me, that kind of adds to the heuristic nature of Manning, is that while she could have played that card and could have come up with that wasn't the point of the trial, and that wasn't the point of what she did releasing the document. So that was, I think, kind of neat to see that whole thing. Which
I understand completely.
Yeah, not to get too much on Manning right now, but it took maybe 24 to 30 hours before the FCIS people hashtag was trending on Twitter?
Yeah, it was like a slow burn, I guess I would call it. It took like a day for it to really catch on, but once it did, it was like...
Oh, it was everywhere. I don't know how many new gay blogs I found out about because of this. I just Googled FCIS people, and it comes up with like a billion results of every little gay blogger out there, or anybody that blogs at all about LGBT stuff, had some sort of posting about...
And they were all mad about it, and it was hilarious because it was mostly cis people getting mad about getting called out on the cis sexist stuff they do to us, because these are the very same people that are mad about it now. Most of them are the very same people throwing us under the bus all the time when it comes to right stuff. I mean, these are the exact same people, and they're pretending like they're not, and it's ridiculous.
You know, I got onto it. I saw that, and I was like, "This is awesome. This is really
this
my
is social
style.
terrorism. This is nothing converts people to your way of thinking like hate, Maya."
Well, you know what? For me, anyways, the FCIS people thing is, and we kind of talked about this the other day in a 200-degree parking lot for way too long. Is I kind of saw it as, say, you know, you can say you're an ally and you can say this and that. You're never really going to understand being trans. And you make more mistakes than you help sometimes. Like, I've actually had to yell at somebody for saying they were a friend and an ally, but they out me to somebody that doesn't know who I am. And it's like, you know, that's really when you say just F cis people, shut up, go away, stop.
But explain that for a second, because I don't think a lot of people understand their own behavior that would irritate you. You present as a female full-time, and you have an issue when someone explains or clarifies what is taking place in your life?
It's not their place.
Meaning, and that means outing
and some
you.
people say that, you know, I'm transitioning to be a woman.
But doesn't your appearance and the fact that, you know, you have podcasts and, you know, you're very vocal about your transition.
It's not for other people to talk about, especially when they don't have a full understanding of said topic. It's just not. You do a pretty good job when you say, well, listen to the podcast, or go talk to Maya. I know that's scary for most people. Most people are scared to death of me. Actually, I had one of my ex-employees says that he always answered my phone call because he was scared of not.
But why does it bother you when people identify you as
it's not so
how
much
you
about
are?
Me. It's that if they start doing that to other people and they start
It's
talking
the
about
principle of the matter.
Right. And it's that if they start talking about being trans and everything else, they don't have a clue what it is. They don't really know what it means. Most of the people that know me, I'm the first trans person they've ever known.
Right.
And it's like, I don't want you guys talking about being trans. I want you to maybe go, hey, go listen to this podcast. Maybe go read this website or something. or just tell people, hey, you should maybe educate yourself on a subject a little bit more.
But why wouldn't you want people to talk about your transition? Because the fact that...
It's wrong.
Hold on. The fact that most people know you, and you're the first trans person that most people know, and I know that certainly I feel this way, before it was an unknown quantity and it was different, maybe viewed... You viewed transitioning as like RuPaul. Okay, that was most people's view of trans people. And through this experience of talking about your transition with you, to be fair, it has given me a whole different perspective. Why wouldn't you want there to be a dialogue?
I would like to have the dialogue.
Okay.
Other people having a dialogue, you get things messed up. You get things, you look at, I think for the most part, using the word transgendered or transgenderism, and just when you put the ED on the end of that.
Yeah, but that's grammar. That's not,
Yeah, but you try to point that out to the first ally who says, transgendered isn't really that great of a word. They're like, well, it's in the dictionary. You're an idiot. You're just being hateful, and stop being so loudmouth and perfect and PC, or you're a liberal. And it just snowballs one tiny little correction, and it's done.
But don't you
microaggressions that build up over time?
Right, but I'm saying if the impulse is to say keep my name out of your mouth, then that means that aren't you staying underground as a community?
I'm not.
That means you come to us for when you want to talk about us.
Okay.
That means if you want to talk about us, we're going to be there.
Right.
We're going to be the ones saying it.
But
hold on. It's think about it this way with politics is that if you want to talk about the new Indiana Democrat Party's new platform, do you go to the National Democrats or do you go to, say, the Republicans in Ohio?
Right.
No, you go to the source to learn about what you want to learn about. If you want to learn about trans stuff, go talk to trans people.
But part of the reason that we do this podcast and that we have built out your website is because people are afraid of hurting a trans person's feelings by asking questions. And so there is a sensitivity.
Well, there's a half and half there, too.
Well, there's half. Hold on. Let me finish. There's half of the people just are dicks, plain and simple. And there's only really been one person who has gone out of their way to be a dick. The other, like, 49.9% just are like, I don't get it. I'm not going to discuss it. I don't care. The other 50% have questions and are curious, but they don't know how to approach it with you personally. How do you both deal with that when you say, well, come and ask me, but people are afraid to ask questions because they don't know what is going to cause a bad emotional reaction on your part? They legitimately care about you and don't want to upset you.
Well, all right, here's the thing. I have a saying for that I find is very true and relevant, that in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. We live in an age of information. All you have to do is Google Trans 101. It's literally just that simple. That's all you have to do. Trans 101. Google that. That's all you have to Google. Do that one thing. Everything you would ever want to know about transgender people is right there for you to look at. That's all you have to do. Once you've done that, then you'll understand. Then you'll get it. Once you've reached that point, then come ask us questions because you'll know what's offensive and what's not.
Exactly.
That's what you have to do. It's really just that simple. And we live in the age of information. The sum of human knowledge is at your fingertips. Go use it.
And see, that's
what's your excuse, sir?
And that's where a lot of people get really, sometimes, I especially get really pissed off at people that say something stupid. Like, I get pissed off when somebody comments on a news story and says, like, who's Bradley Manning? Like, there's a whole bunch of people that did that. And I'm like, why would you post that comment? Google it. It's like, 20 characters and an enter key. But then there's also some, I want to say, LGB support groups out there and websites that say it's not, it's offensive to ask trans people questions. It's offensive to talk to trans people. It's offensive to do that. I'm like, it all depends on context. If, like, this is a random person you've never met before and you've never seen him, you walked up, hey, are you trans? I've got some questions. That's kind of rude.
Right.
It's like walking up to a girl that you can't, like, she maybe carries herself weird, and you're like, are you a dude or a chick? Because if you're a chick, I'm going to hit on you.
It's sort of the principle of you never ask a woman of larger carriage if she's pregnant.
Yeah.
That's going to go bad for you.
it's like, but if you have a mutual friend and you kind of know the person, like, oh, well, how far along are you?
So to delve into the nuance, the F-cis people really is a reaction towards the short-sightedness, the obtuseness of walking up to a trans person asking if they're male or female.
Lorelai?
It's just
It's a
obtuse.
culmination of a lot of microaggressions. Everyone had their own expression to tie along with that. The common chord was the expression F cis people for some horrible thing cis people have done to me. And each person's was different. I mean, if you go and look through the tag and you filter out all the trolls and you look at the trans people's stories, you see all this horrible pain that it's common throughout a lot of us. And you see, this is what people are apologizing for. This is what people are decrying, the pain and suffering that trans people all over the world have faced. And they're trying to silence that, and it's ridiculous.
Well, I saw, I think, something that you'd said that you'd maybe tried a different hashtag, and people say, try to change the tone. These tone
and
Nazis.
I did. Several people ran experiments where we tried 3 or 4 different hashtags between several people, and none of them took off, but fuck cis people did.
Right, and it's that'll bring us kind of on to the next point, is the other hashtag. Magneto was right. Now, I'm not sure who started that. Are you?
It's existed before, but I kind of have tried to take over the meme and turn it into something else. The symbology of it comes from a disagreement between myself and another writer, Quirica, who she always says that she's more the Professor X style of activism, and I'm more the Magneto style because I use anger as a way to get people's attention. Non-violent expressions of anger, of course, as just sort of a psychic slap in the face without doing any real harm to another human being. But it does get their attention. So that's the method I use. And she says that's more the Magneto style, and she doesn't like it. So, I've been running with that. Magneto is right because, and then I tagged that with the stories of the horrible shit we have to experience every day all over the world, especially in places like Greece, where they're literally rounding us up into camps. And that because we're different, people are trying to kill us all over the world.
Right.
And there's no nice response to that. I mean, there isn't.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if they had Twitter back in Martin Luther King's day, he would have started the F white people.
No, I would say that Stokely Carmichael or Malcolm X would. But...
No, MLK was not opposed to violence. He just said nonviolence was the best route we have at this moment, but violence is not off the table.
Right,
Everyone forgets that.
No, the way that MLK used violence is he would go into the city leadership and he'd say, listen, my protest is going to be peaceful. My people are peaceful people, and you're not going to have any trouble with my people. But I have some influence on the nut jobs that are out on the fringes who are ready to come in here and burn everything down. And so if you leave us alone, then those people will stay out on the fringes. And every movement, you and I represent two sides of the libertarian coin here. I am listen, we need to work within the system. This is what we have. You need to vote. And you're like, no, F voting, burn it all to the ground. That every movement has that mentality of, listen, be outrageous, be confrontational, maybe the best way, to bring people to an awareness, while the other side is, let's make it a little more vanilla so it goes down with the spoonful of sugar.
And
the issue with that is what I'm doing is I'm attempting to push the Overton window of perception when it comes to transgender issues by pushing the envelope of what's considered acceptable and unacceptable. And to do that, you have to be on the extreme side pushing that.
Overton window
Once that Overton window shifts, the people in the middle will become the accepted norm, and that benefits transgender people as a whole. There is a method to my madness. I'm not just some raving angry person. I do have a strategy.
And that's the same thing I say, is that we've had very good intellectual talks before, Chris, is that I'm so far extreme that I drag people with me.
Right.
Every time I do something crazy, I bring people a little bit closer to me, and it is the Overton window. Basically, I don't like using that term because Glenn Beck tried to monopolize it. Fuck you.
He didn't try and monopolize
It is a good word. I mean, the concept is a good.
Yeah,
one.
it's a great thing.
He tried to popularize a very important characteristic.
And well, no, he did a good job with it. I just, it's Glenn Beck. But
just fuck him anyways.
but that's what I do, and I think the idea that Magneto is right is that in some of the comics and stuff, Magneto just wholesale killed normal people, and
which I don't advocate real life violence at all. It's just a metaphor. I want to clarify that right now.
They're very good because it's
simply a metaphor. I don't advocate real life violence. I am a pacifist. I mean, like, I'll break for animals in the road.
Well, I mean. But on the flip side, I'm not by any means a pacifist, but I do follow the non-aggression axiom. So there's that to throw into the mix.
I'm not a comic book nerd. Who is Magneto?
Magneto. Have you seen the movies X-Men?
I haven't.
Well, Professor X is basically, it's about mutants. I'm not going to explain the whole storyline, but Professor X is the good guy that always wanted to fit in. He's the let's put it this way for our political people. He's Creighton Harrington. He wants to fit in with the big boys and the Republicans and change things from the inside. Magneto is Adam Kokesh.
Yeah, the Joker style where
No, the Joker style, that's chaotic evil.
Maybe
Magneto's more like chaotic neutral.
V for Vendetta.
No, Magneto is more like lawful evil.
Right.
Would you say it's lawful?
He has his own code of discipline and ethics. They're just radically different than someone else's.
That's true. Okay. Well, we'll go with we'll go with that.
Okay.
It's going to bring order to the world, even if he has to choke the shit out of it.
Now,
there we go.
So F cis people is really about not literally F me. It's more about
fuck all of this oppression we have to go through.
Right. This is bullshit. We're not going to deal with this anymore. And then Magneto is right. Is like it's okay to be a little confrontational to shift the Overton window.
And it's okay to be different. It's okay to be trans. You don't have to fit into cis normativity. If you don't pass, that's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Be proud of the fact that you're different and trans.
And it's basically it's also coming out and saying, you can be as loud as you want. You know how many I have people give me issue with every single last thing about me, the clothes I wear, how I dress, how I carry myself, from both sides of the spectrum, from being trans to being cis, and then my carrying of a gun, everything. And people are like, well, wouldn't it be easier? Why do you bitch about having a bad day or people giving you a hard time or laughing at you or saying off-the-wall comments? Why don't you just be quieter? Why don't you tone it down? And it's like, would you how does that make sense? That's not fair. I need to tone myself down because society's stupid? Really?
Right. Well, and part of what you have taught me is before you came out as if you were, that you were transitioning, everything had to be binary. Everything had to be male or female. And so if you were transitioning, you were going from male to female, and you were going to have to fit into traditional female roles and societal's expectations. Right. And so the attitude that Maya has really, I'm thinking about writing a blog post is I don't give a shit anymore. Maya is a human being. Maya is my friend. Maya has these principles and values that I care about. And it doesn't matter to me if she's male, female, a flamingo, who cares? She just is the person that she is. And I'll call her Donald Duck if she wants me to call her that, or anything. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's about seeing Maya as a human being and not as a label.
Perfect. That's just something that, and then through the hashtags, it's social interaction. It's Twitter, but
it's social warfare.
Yeah, right. It's gotten the attention. It's gotten people to talk about it. Now there's these so-called, I don't know who the hell they are because they obviously haven't come across my radar as important, but these some of the big thought leaders in the trans community online and bloggers and stuff like tried to distance themselves from this hashtag, and that kind of brings up the point of like you see people like I get pissed off at Stossel and the Judge all the time because I know they can take things further, but they're worried about making sure they're still relevant and they're still on top of their little games. That's what I get. I get so angry at some people because they know they can say something else. Like Rand Paul. Rand Paul is smart, but he's playing the game. He could be changing and doing so much more, but he isn't. He's playing the game and he's trying to stay on top, thinking that'll be okay. The whole time being that when people do things like that, they bastardize a good idea in a movement just because other people might not like it and you might get your image hurt a little bit, is that they're really shitting on everybody else out there that's not up at the top.
I think that's absolute crap. I think that they have a larger voice because they are a little more moderate. Why do we have to force a certain style of activism on people? Adam Kokesh, I would never be Adam Kokesh and be as bombastic as he is. I would never talk the way that you talk, even though a lot of things that we agree. But
I think what she's trying to talk about, and this goes back to an article I wrote about hero worship and demonization, is about putting people on pedestals, about putting certain people on pedestals and saying this is the example we have to follow, instead of because when you put somebody on a pedestal, you put everyone else below them, including yourself. And I don't buy into that. Nobody is above me. I refuse to believe that. I think that nobody is above me and nobody is below me. So nobody deserves to be on a pedestal. So these people that others are trying to convince everyone to put on these pedestals, we need to start pulling them down back to earth. You know what I'm saying? They're just one voice. Everyone gets one voice.
Maya needs Lorelai to follow her around as a translator. I don't know. I see both sides of, there needs to be a lack of binary when it comes to types of activism. I think
no, and that's not what I was saying. Is that when
everybody's choice of activism, as long as they're doing something, should be okay.
Right, but that's not what people do when they're a little bit more thought leaders. They say Adam Kokesh was horrible. That was a bad move. No one should ever do that. Blah 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 blah. Or they completely disregard what he did.
The message behind it.
The message, and that's what I'm saying.
What they should be doing is explaining. Yeah, this guy's angry, but here's why he's pissed off. These X, Y, and Z horrible things that have been happening. This is why he's angry. This is why he's lashing out. Agree with what he did or not. This is why people like us are angry.
Now, and then I've seen a couple people talk about, I think it was a guy on Belerco, and I forget where the other one was, and they were talking about the hashtag FCIS people, and they're like, well, I completely understand it. It's not really my place to have an opinion on it because I'm cis and blah, 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 and they went on and they had this very well laid out thing. They're like, I don't agree with the people attacking them for their tone. This is very relevant. It showed a lot of pain and a lot of anger that needed to be showed.
Exactly.
But then at the end, they're like, but that's not my kind of activism, and this is why I don't think it's as effective as this. And they laid out these very nice points. They didn't go, oh my God, this is so bad. These people are horrible. They're hurting the movement. Oh my God, we got to stop them. It was a very nice laid out. I understand it might not be my place to have an opinion on it, and this is why I don't think it's as effective. And that was like, that's awesome. That's how it should go. You see a lot of crossover when it comes to like the social movement from politics, is that you're either one or the other. Everything has been turned into this where I see a lot better stuff with it when the LGBT community sometimes where people are actually taking all things into consideration and go, oh, well, we could lay it out like this. But when people completely demonize, like Manning, what Manning did, I think, was heroic. Did she break laws? Did she break her oath? She broke laws. I don't believe she broke her oath. I think she completely upheld her oath to defend and support the Constitution from
I agree.
all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I was in the military. If I had been in her position, I'd have done the exact same thing.
And so would I have. I had a secret clearance, and there's nothing I can do with the information I have. It's just kind of like, well, that's nifty. I probably shouldn't tell people, but it's like, it's not going to be like, oh my God! With where she was and what she saw, she felt that the American people in the world needed to know what was going on for the betterment of mankind, not betterment of herself or anything else. And I'm going to come out and say right off the bat is that she did not come out as trans to try to use that as blaming it on what happened and why she released information. People are saying that literally need to have their nipples twisted off.
Ow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's clear that it wasn't a trying to use it as an excuse or a justification of a certain behavior. It was just a statement of, it's all over now. My lawyers are, off my back. So here's what it is. Here's the deal.
Well,
people have questions. Here's a clarification.
and one thing people don't get is this is another thing with cis people they just don't understand is being trans and not being out is an everyday struggle. It means more to life than anything else. A lot of times, it's everything in your being makes you want to come out and be who you are.
Right.
And so, right after the trial is done, she's like, well, "Okay, well now it's respectful. I can talk about personal stuff. I'm trans. Woo!"
Right.
Huge weight lifted off her shoulder. Even though if that's going to make her
Trial's
prison,
over. It doesn't matter. I'm trans.
right, and even if that makes her prison sentence harder. Even if she knows she's going to have to wait at least 7.5, 8 years before she can start hormones, that's still going to huge weight off her mind.
Right.
She's been sitting in solitary confinement for 3.5 years, stewing on this, just wanting to do nothing but transition after all this shit is over.
Right.
And so it's something where people get like, well, why'd they bring it up? Why'd she send that picture to that person? Why'd she tell people if she didn't want anybody to know it was going to be an issue and she knew she'd get kicked out? And it's like, because you don't really, sometimes you just got to tell somebody. You
Right.
just have to get it out.
I saw an interview with Jake Tapper with the person that I think she sent the photo to, and it was another person in the military. They connected via a chat room, and it was sort of it wasn't a formal help group, but it just was a way for military members who were who were in the closet trans to communicate with each other and talk to each other. Just that outlet, I imagine, helps so much. Just being able to talk to someone else in your situation.
Right, yeah, and I did make a post the other day, and I think I got a lot of flack from it, but I don't think I don't think there should be any transgender people in the military. I don't think they should want to serve. I don't think they should be allowed to serve. I actually hope they pass laws to make it harder for trans people to serve and make the punishment of being found out to be trans while in the military is you're instantly expelled from said military.
All right, explain that.
I don't want my trans brothers and sisters dying for unjust wars and for a bunch of people that hate them and think they're freaks. I don't want them serving. I actually don't want, I'll go out and normal people, just the not normal, but the general masses, I'll convince them to go join the military. It's a good idea. You go die and fight for your country. Go die fighting for your politicians. I don't want my people to have to do anything with yours. I don't want them to die.
The other part of what we've talked about in the past is that when you're in the military, it's a total loss of your independence. And I think with people who already struggle with the, I don't know if this is going to be offensive. I'm sorry if it is, but with people who have, you want to fit in, you want to be accepted for who you are, and you need that independence, and you need to declare who you are, and losing your independence for the military seems to be counterintuitive, counterproductive, unhealthy in a way.
It is for some of the vets that I've talked to that are trans. They joined because it's for one side or the other. It's hyper masculine.
Right.
It's just you don't have a lot of control. You don't have to have a lot of expression. Everybody's kind of the same, and you're like, hey, that would actually probably be a good idea. I mean, everybody's the same. There's no real expression. Blah 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 blah, and it actually hurts more than it helps.
Right.
It hurts a lot more.
I mean, it pushed me down a deep dark hole. I mean, I drank hard liquor nonstop for the most of the time I was in the military.
Right.
And I was. It was horrible. It was utterly one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. Other than the fact I got to shoot a lot of really big guns, that was just awesome. But and I've seen a W-83 nuke pushed around a quarter and hit a wall. That it's like a 3,000-pound nuclear gravity bomb, and it hit a wall, and that was the most amazing experience of my entire life.
Wow.
But so the military thing is that people understand that how strong being trans it affects your mindset, it affects everything, and not like affects your mindset as far as it's like negative and it drives you insane or something, but it's that nagging thing at the back of your in the back of your head. It's always there. It's like, hey, here's a moment of weakness. You're kind of tired. Go ahead and tell somebody you're trans. Do it. And then you do, and you're like, oh, shit.
Is there anything that you can compare that to for cis people? I mean, is there anything that any kind of context that you can give to cis people to understand that kind of. It almost sounds like mental anguish, if I could phrase it as that.
What, Lorelai?
Is there anything that even comes close?
I
There's
All
just
right, try this. This might give you a parallel train of thought. Imagine tomorrow that you woke up in the body of someone else of the opposing gender and gender identity. You woke up in the body of a cis woman. Okay? I'm
So
talking to you personally.
after 4 solid hours of boob play, then then
No, and then imagine, if whoever's listening, if you're a cis woman, imagine you woke up in the body of a cis man. If you're a cis man, imagine you woke up in the body of a cis woman.
and
All
then
right?
just sort of that
Jokes
confusion.
about masturbation aside,
Yeah,
imagine how horrible it would be to live like that day after day, knowing you were in the wrong body
right.
and having nobody understand that, nobody believing you.
And now imagine doing that in, say, the early 1900s, where the gender roles were so very hardcore defined. And that's how it looks to me sometimes, is that, yeah, things these days, women are wearing pants. Oh, my God. Women can show more than, just their knees, and it'd be okay.
Please go to a county fair. It's every
Well, all the 12-year-olds have shorts that are literally up into their cracks.
Yeah.
And it's scary. But
which is another discussion for another day. We will.
we
yell
are
at
going
your
to have to have that
We
because
will
my
yell at your
opinions on
parents.
that is something
Yeah.
that's going to shock you.
Do
but
better.
Is that it's amplified. I see gender roles everywhere.
Right.
And it's and that's what you kind of do is that, and then you constantly argue with yourself. Am I doing this because I want to, or is it because it makes it easier to fit in?
Right.
Like the only reason I prefer certain gender pronouns is because I'm not going to try to teach a million people a third pronoun.
Right.
That's just, I don't have the patience or the willpower to do so.
It's just a lot. It sounds like a lot of mental processing that most people, cis people, don't have to do.
Right.
Right.
It's true.
There's a shorthand that cis people have that trans people don't.
But it's a cost.
The thing is that here's the thing. This is why I think cis people are afraid of trans people. I think transphobia is an actual literal fear. I think that cis people are afraid of trans people because we have an expanded method of thinking. We have to explore our own gender identities and who we are inside. We have to dig deep into our own minds, and that gives us certain advantages. And I think cis people see that and are afraid of it because by our very existence, we challenge a social norm just by being alive. I mean, what more can we do when we flourish? Look at the amazing things transgender people have done all over the world. That a lot of these accomplishments get erased or forgotten about, too.
Well, part of it, too, though, I mean, this is really the first time where we've ever expressed it on the show, Maya. Part of it is just a lack of understanding of why you have to go through those mental gymnastics. Like, there's an impulse with cis people to say, like, just get over it. Just what are you worrying so much? Just get over it.
And it's on the flip side, since it's so much more personal. It hits me differently than when I have political discussions. Is that I believe what I believe because I believe it to be the best. But when it comes from me, I can't just read a book and go, I better understand this, so I'm okay now. It's not coming from even necessarily my conscious. It's my subconscious, my id. It's my being, who I am. And having to have hidden that for so long and been fake, life's not worth living if you can't be true. And it's one of those things where it's just not, if I can't be who I am to the fullest, there's absolutely no point in living anymore. Because I'm not going backwards, and that's what a lot of people think, is that once you reach a certain point, you're not going backwards. Backwards is not okay.
Right. I want to ask both of you, I think a common question in regards to Chelsea Manning would be, well, which prison is she going to go into? Can you talk about the complicated relationship? I mean, prison is a very binary thing. You're in a male prison or a female prison.
Chelsea Manning, unfortunately, will be housed in a male prison.
Right. So you would say that it probably, without speaking for her, it would probably be better in a female prison.
Most likely, yes.
Well, I believe it'd be better if she never went to prison at all.
Right, yeah.
Which
That- not that-
I'm
that
still, hey,
notwithstanding.
NSA, FBI, I am actually going to actively seek out people that want to break her out of prison. Come get some. But,
I laughed out loud the one day when you're like, let's break this sister out of prison and pump her full of hormones.
you know what? I want to go break her out of like prison, just like shove a whole bunch of pills in her mouth. Go, yay! I don't know if that's, but it's, if I'm not mistaken, she's going to Leavenworth.
Yes, Leavenworth Prison, yep.
And it's going to be the male side. And though that this federally, it has been upheld that HRT is medically necessary, even to prisoners, and most
The Army
prisoners,
won't pay for it.
the Army.
So I actually
Leavenworth-
talked to
Okay.
the Manning Support Network, and they're going to try to offer the Army to pay for it instead of them if they'll allow it.
See, as far
That's
as
the big thing is the Army won't pay for it.
no, and it's not that the Fort Leavenworth does not see it. They're outside of the scope of. It's a really tricky situation with military stuff and federal government stuff. Is that they don't buy into that. They're not okay with HRT. Period.
Hormone replacement therapy for those.
Yes, sorry,
in the dark.
the hormones. And a lot of people said, I don't want to pay for that. I don't want to pay for this. I don't want to pay for that. And I'm like $120 a month, really? That's a huge cost to eat up there for a prisoner, and
Right.
they're medically necessary. But
should taxpayers have to pay for hormone replacement therapy?
if we live in a
Absolutely.
society in which forces
Life-saving
people,
medical treatment.
well, right, it's hold on, it's if we're gonna force people into little cages for breaking our laws we forced on them, then we are going to take care of them to the best of our ability while we steal away their entire life in prison. We force people into metal cages for victimless crimes. The Pentagon said nobody was hurt because of what Manning did.
And you don't find that to be inconsistent with your libertarian beliefs?
What?
See, I think I agree with you, okay? But I think a
It's
lot of
a
people would say,
libertarian-
I would say that a lot of people listening, a lot of libertarians who are not as sympathetic to the trans cause would look at it like it's a choice.
But it's been deemed medically necessary under law.
Right.
Bam, done. What do you got?
Lorelei?
First of all, I'm not a libertarian. I'm an anarchist.
Chris here is a libertarian. I say I'm a libertarian just because it's the very large umbrella
Right.
use of libertarian where anarchy somewhat kind of fits under that train of thought.
We use it as an umbrella term. Okay, I want to ask about the media's discussion. There are some media outlets who just flat out refuse and are disrespectful. Surprisingly, NPR is one of them, about the way that they refer to Chelsea Manning. Jake Tapper on CNN, and CNN, I was kind of surprised by their position because it's the one that I thought NPR might use. Jake Tapper came out and said, listen, here we feel that we are sensitive to the fact that Bradley Manning is transitioning to female and wants to be referred to as Chelsea, but the context of the story, because it is a news story and most people have Bradley Manning in that context, and we need to save time by referring to her as Bradley Manning, so we will refer to Chelsea as Bradley from here on out. And presumably next week they won't ever mention Chelsea or Bradley Manning ever again, but
Well, it's possible.
what are your thoughts on that? I mean, should the news media honor Chelsea's wishes, or should they use the
Absolutely.
shorthand?
Unequivocally, yes,
Okay.
without exception.
Well, it's what happened if somebody got married and changed their name?
Right.
Do you just go, no, it's easier to call you by your old name? Yeah, okay. Or, somebody prefers to be called...
You don't do that with actors, rock stars, or anybody else who changes their name in the news. Why not trans people? It's just clear trans discrimination.
Right, and NPR actually did change their position. First, they came out and said, until Bradley Manning's fully a woman, we're not going to call him a woman. And then they changed their tune later that day, I'm sure,
Yes,
because...
we kept yelling at him all day long.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
blew up their everything.
CNN also said the standard was the legal changing of the name. So if Bradley legally changed her name to Chelsea, then they would refer to Bradley as Chelsea.
Well, it's okay. Maybe they can go that route, whatever. But
It's
why
still
can't you just
wrong.
be decent? Why can't you be a
Right.
decent human being? If someone came up to you and go, my name's Stu. Okay. Well, what's your birth name? What's it say on your birth certificate? Oh,
Right.
it's Stewart something something. Okay, I'm going to call you Stewart then. That's the same thing. Would you do that to somebody?
No, I think we did in the last episode. Was it the last episode, or maybe the one before that, where we talked to your parents? And I tried to give context by saying Jeremiah and he when we talked about your childhood to kind of help with your parents' context. I couldn't do it. Like I at this point, in the beginning, there are a lot of honest mistakes, and there's still some honest pronoun mistakes. But for the most part, even when I tried to refer to Chelsea Manning as Bradley, I just couldn't do it anymore. I've been so conditioned by you to honor people's respect. And then there's this one person that we both know that Jesus commands that they call you a he.
His name is Ed Coleman. He lives in Hancock, Indiana.
At Greenfield. And it goes out of their way, and it's just disrespectful. It's just rude.
Well, he told me straight up in front of other people and friends that
It's petty.
Yeah.
he would not call me by my preferred name. He would not, and he would never use the correct or my preferred gender pronouns. Now, another thing that we go back to the whole F-cis people thing is I was at a meeting the other day, and supposedly my friends and my political colleagues recommended Ed Coleman as a good person to talk to about libertarianism and local libertarian politics. As I'm sitting right there, and they look at me with this really uncomfortable look, knowing they just recommended to go talk to somebody that treats a fellow hardworking libertarian like subhuman. And that's why F-cis people, because you know what? I don't think anyone that has any kind of decency should ever give Ed Coleman a time of day. We should ostracize him from our community, because if you have any respect for me or in human beings, you would never again give him the time of day. You would ostracize him from the community. You would not use him as a good example of the local libertarian community. Now, would you? Would you want to, knowing everything else about him and what he's done and said about me?
Right.
I mean, as a friend or a good colleague, you would think you'd ostracize that person, would you not?
Somebody who just is plainly disrespectful.
Yeah.
And trying to be hurtful.
And when we say, as libertarians, you can have your own personal views, just respect everybody like a human being.
And frames it as a Christian sort of thing. Well, you couldn't feel any less loved or accepted. It's not even about accepting a lifestyle. It's about treating another human being with respect and love. And you couldn't feel any less loved or respected as a human being than you did at the state convention. Plain and simple. I mean,
that was, and after all the other good things and all the great interactions I had with a couple hundred people that have known me as both Jeremiah and Maya, and that one guy completely shattered that weekend for me.
Right.
And nobody really said anything. Everyone just kind of looked at him and was like, "Oh my God!" But they didn't do anything. They didn't come to a defense or anything else. And that's some of the things with, like, I think with the whole Magneto is right, is that people just sit on the sidelines and say they're allies, but they don't shout down the people that are shouting loudest, because that's the only way that works. Is you see a horrible thread on a friend's timeline and you say nothing.
Yeah.
You don't interject any intelligence. You just stand by and go, "Oh well, that sucked."
But isn't that human nature? I watched I like Who Do You Think You Are on the Learning Channel, where they take famous people and retrace their genealogy. And it was Chelsea Handler's grandpa was a German soldier during World War II. And he wasn't a Nazi. He wasn't a proud Nazi enthusiast. He wasn't on the opposite end. He was just in the middle, kind of going along to get along. And Chelsea Handler's conclusion was, "Oh, well, I wish I could be more like my grandpa and be less outspoken and say less. And just, when things get tough, just don't say anything." And I sat there and I thought, that's your conclusion? You're proud of your grandfather for saying nothing? You're proud of your grandfather for just kind of being part of the silent middle that, allowed 12 million people to be exterminated at the hands of Hitler?
And that's the funny thing, is if you do watch the first X-Men, Magneto was a child, and where his parents, he was Jewish. He's a Jew. and he was taken to a concentration camp as a kid, and that's when his powers kind of manifested as they were taking his parents away. And I think that kind of helps make the whole discussion a little bit more about that, is that not all the Jews fought back. I have my dad had friends when he was younger, family friends and stuff that were Jews, and they're like, no, we just kind of went along. We always thought somebody was going to come and save us, or we just thought, they would stop, or it wouldn't really get that bad. And that's where I think a lot of anger is too, is that people know it's wrong, but they just don't care about you enough to fight for you. They'll talk about you maybe, and they'll answer some questions or be nice, go, I'm an ally, and they'll carry a little flag or put a fucking sticker on their car or something. But when it comes down to it, there are people.
Their ally cookie, but they don't want to bleed for it.
How many people truly have the courage that both of you have by coming out and declaring who you are and knowing the societal pressure that you're going to be under, and then also on the same token, not living lives of obscurity, but putting yourselves out there as, I don't want to say spokespeople, but as...
I don't speak for myself.
Yeah, just putting yourself out there to bring awareness about a lifestyle that most people... That's what's needed. I mean, people need to know. The more people hear things like the Creating Maya podcast, the more willing they're going to be to speak out against somebody like Ed. And I think even if it were somebody saying that to somebody's wife, I think most people wouldn't say anything. I think most people just are afraid to rock the boat.
And that's part of the problem, is that people need to not be afraid to rock the boat, because that's the only way anything changes, is by rocking the boat. Why are people so afraid of change? The world is not in a good condition. We're not doing things right. Things need to change. We all know this. We have to know this. You'd have to be just burying your head in the sand not to know the world is fucked up. Things need to change. So why are we so afraid of that?
Exactly, and that's kind of the thing that I always yell about, is with my activism and everything else is in your face stuff, is that it's getting out there and showing people, because you know what? Most people don't care about anything you've ever done, Chris. They'll never know about it. And
right.
You've done a lot and done more than I think most people could ever accomplish, but the majority of people out there will never hear about it and never fully even understand it. And that's where it does take a combination of different sorts of activism and everything else, but it's also the social thing. I think the social sphere is the biggest battlefield and the most important. And if we can get people to care about trans people getting murdered and beat up and raped and everything else in the streets, then maybe we can get them to care about something else, or something a little bit more. If we can get them to care about basic human rights and humanity, maybe we can get them to care about some more. But until you break them out of their comfy little shells through things like F-cis people and making them a little bit uncomfortable and starting the dialogues, then it's never going to happen. Just all these other trans writers and stuff like that on these little queer blogs, I've never heard of these places. Half of them. That if I haven't heard of them, I guarantee you a boatload of people have never heard of them.
It's sort of like thinking, well, I'm an important member of the Indianapolis City County Council, and then you go to, like, let's say Memphis. Well, they don't care about you in Memphis.
Right. And so it's transcending all of the lines all the boxes that we create for ourselves, and things like F-cis people, and Magneto is right, does that, because it can be used all over the place, and it breaks that comfy little shell everybody sits in. But I think
we got to wrap up here.
Yeah.
So,
Lorelei, do you have any maybe closing sentiments, statements, anything that you would like to push and talk about? Maybe a website or something of yours?
Go ahead and read Queerica. I write for there. Follow me on Twitter at StuxNetSource, and it was nice talking with y'all.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it, and answering the tough questions. So it was a good show.
Yeah, I think we'll have to maybe do some more of these combined episodes in the future, as long as trans stays up at the top of the news. I got to go do something stupid downtown. All right, well, thanks everybody for listening. Depending on which episode you're listening to, if you listen to them both, well, you're going to have to listen to it twice.
And it was worth it.
It was worth it. Find us at creatingmy.com or the uncontrollables.com. You're going to listen to us at my new time on my show, in case you missed it and you're listening to the archive version of this, is at 3 to 4 p.m. on Tuesdays on IndianaTalks.com. Find Gary Snyder on Facebook. Find Indiana Talks on Facebook. All my shows are on Facebook. I have like 70 pages now. I have like 4 accounts. I keep getting banned. Yeah. I need a job.
All right. Say goodnight. Say goodnight, Maya.
All right. Bye.